But when you are wheel to wheel with someone at 330k an hour, and you know the sort of, I suppose the subtle mind games that can creep in to trying to unstabilise your rivals along the lines, and there's been famous rivalries all through our sport over the years, and just how far some of them were prepared to go was very interesting. But you're right, it can get pretty intense, and I think just because when the helmet's on, it's sometimes you think and you get so deep and you get very, very angry, very, very quickly.
Just how nasty then was it between you and Sebastian Vettel?
Actually, not probably as bad as was made out, to be honest. I think that there was ultimately, when you do, I wasn't big on the finger. Most people probably weren't big on that. But I think he knew all of us weren't, so that was almost a little game for him. But I think that, look, I tried to cut him a bit of slack as often as I could, because he was a young guy too. I mean, a lot happened with him in his career very, very fast. He was unbelievably successful fast, and he was, and it's not easy when you got a guy even sort of 10, which he's whatever, 10, 11 years younger than me, sort of talking to you like generally you know everything, even though the respect, and he was certainly as good as me, if not better. The results show he was a lot better than me. But in terms of actually that stage of your career and just the levels of maturity and stuff, I tried to cut him some slack, but in the end it wasn't always easy. But I think how the success we had and how the team was sort of operating, that put more tension on our relationship,
right,
but indirectly, just how we competed against each other. And then that was what was on the shown on the outside.
Geez, you had a clanger at Malaysia, didn't you, with the multi-21? So let's just run through this. So this is after the last pit stop. Team orders basically should come into play. I think you flipped in the bird too at one stage, didn't you? Christian Horner, the chief, comes on and says, "This is silly, Seb. Come on." So
yeah,
it's brewing and it's brewing and it's brewing, and it was always going to reach a point. But then, just before the podium, so
I think that this was probably May 2010. So this is 3 or 4 years later. I mean, This stuff just slowly kept fizzling over, and sometimes it would get out onto the track on a Sunday afternoon, which just so happened there was a few people watching, So
it kicked off in the podium room, Matty. It was
just before that podium.
Well, it was one of the extraordinary moments in sport, Matty. You probably should talk us through it. You're the expert.
It's the multi-21. So here you come in, and Sebastian's waiting for you, and you didn't miss him, Mark. I'll give you that. Listen to this.
Multi-21, Seb. Yeah, multi-21.
Oh, crikey.
So what was the fallout? I mean, everyone knows that happened.
Adrian's having a ball there, isn't he?
Yeah, Adrian's having a terrific time in the middle there, and Sebastian looks really happy as well. He just goes for the drink. I don't know.
But what happens when you get in that room afterwards, and we hear Nico and Lewis, they get in a room and they sort it out. What happens when you and Seb go and sit in that room together 20 minutes later?
Yeah, that one was interesting. I think there was a huge amount of talk on the podium between the pair of us, getting on the podium, getting off the podium, getting then to the press conference, which was then the next, because we had a small presser on the podium, which they introduced that season, I think. But then the press conference was the next one, because we just knew it was going to be on for young and all there, so we had a small chat there. So it was, mate, it wasn't a nice discussion between the pair of us, obviously.